Welcome to Reddit Confessions.
I thought I was just cueing a playlist. Instead, the house coughed up a confession. The snow outside pressed the glass like a quiet audience. Aspen had that kind of silence that makes you hear your own pulse. A luxury Airbnb perched over the pines, black steel and warm timber, a fireplace humming in the corner like it knew secrets. Carla's laughter had been bouncing around these beams all afternoon. Now she was in the shower, filling the in-suite with eucalyptus steam and her favorite spa playlist. Except I'd paused it so I could put something softer on the speakers for dinner. Play something mellow, I said, casual. The kind of casual you rehearse. The smart speaker woke. Playing Kitchen, Save Conversation. Then it began. A breathy laugh I knew like my own handwriting. She'll be back any second. A man's voice, low and amused. He's still on that call with the Boston client. We have time. Water roaring in my ears, though I wasn't anywhere near the shower. The recording had room tone. The crackle of this exact fireplace, the soft clink of wine against stone. Then the sound that rearranged the bones in my chest. Carla's whisper. God, Devin, don't tease me. I didn't move. It was as if my body understood something before my mind did, and locked me in place so I couldn't make a mistake. I am an architect. Load paths, stress, balance. When something starts to fail, you don't throw yourself under the collapsing wall. You study the failure. You mark its angles. You plan the demolition. On the speaker, a half moan. His voice again, my business partner's voice I'd heard 1,000 times in boardrooms and airports. You like when I take charge, babe. Babe. The shower hissed open down the hall. A door snicked shut. Carla hummed like nothing in the world had ever hurt her. The recording went on. Movement, fabric, a muffled laugh. Don't leave a mark, she said. I won't, Devin promised. He never looks. I stared at the dim blue ring of the speaker and heard something mechanical inside me lift a pen and put a little check beside a line item I didn't know I'd written. Evidence. My phone was already in my hand. A credenza. The tiny red waveform jittered like a nervous heart. Alexa, I said softly, what did you just play? Kitchen, saved conversation, the device replied. Recorded yesterday at 4:19 p.m. Kitchen. Yesterday at 4:19. I was out on the deck taking a vendor call. Carla had said she was stretching. Devin had gone to check the driveway for ice. Who authorized recordings? I asked. My voice sounded normal. Not even a crack. Voice notes are enabled for guest profile, the speaker said. Who's connected via Bluetooth? I asked. Last paired devices, Carla's iPhone. Devin's iPhone. Guest iPad. My jaw didn't tighten. My hand didn't tremble. I could feel each separate breath enter and exit like I'd finally remembered how to breathe on purpose. In the recording, there was a clatter. My favorite decanter tapping the counter. Carla's voice, almost a laugh, almost a plea. He's going to hear us. Devin, he won't. He never hears what he doesn't want to. I stood there and listened to them talk about me like I was a piece of furniture. Heavy, useful, easily ignored. Devin's slick, confident cadence. Carla's practiced serenity slipping off her like a robe. We're careful, she said. We're so careful. Not careful enough to feel guilty, he said. I could hear the smile in it. That's what I love about you. I don't love, she stopped. Don't say that word. Fine, he murmured, the sound of a zip. I love the risk. A gust hit the windows then, rattled the panes. Outside, a snowcat crawled along a distant slope like an orange beetle. The fireplace popped in the exact rhythm of the pop on the recording. Here and there overlapped until the two moments were indistinguishable. Present time was a film laid over another film, both in perfect focus. Deleted, Carla's voice said, suddenly sharp. The thing's listening. You always say that, remember? You're paranoid. Devin laughed. It's nothing. These albums barely work half the time. You promise? I promise. The conversation dissolved into noises that I won't dignify with words. I'm not squeamish, but there are sounds that live behind the ears. Once they move in, they never leave. The shower cut off. I tapped end on the recording and slid my phone into my back pocket. My reflection in the window was a stranger I trusted implicitly. Alexa, I said, repeat last item. Playing Kitchen, Save Conversation. I let it run another 30 seconds. Enough to pin down tone, cadence, the shape of the sin. Then, stop. The room went dead silent, except for the mountain's slow breath. I crouched to the outlet and traced the cord from the speaker to the wall, to the surge strip, to the tidy tangle tucked behind a credenza. Clean installation. Whoever owned this place either cared or hired someone who did. I pressed and held the Bluetooth button until the speaker pulsed. Pairing mode, it said. On my phone, new devices flickered up. Guest living room. Carla's iPhone, connected recently. Devin's iPhone, connected recently. Every teak-veneered piece of this cabin had been chosen for the exact kind of couple who wanted to feel invincible. Heated concrete floors, a ridiculous Japanese soaking tub, and a little black cylinder with a ring of light on top. Always listening, because that's the convenience we all ask for, listening and remembering. Footsteps padded down the hall. The bathroom door opened in a wash of steam and eucalyptus. "Babe," Carla called, playful. "You still messing with the music? I swear, if I hear that awful ski lodge playlist again." "I'm dialing in something better," I said, turning my head, casual and warm. "How's the shower?" "Heaven." She floated into view in a white robe, damp hair combed back, serenity arranged on her face like a brand. She wore serenity like other people wore jewelry. It glittered, and it hid the seams. I smiled just enough to be read as normal. I have a good normal. People come to me with messes, and I make them into buildings. "Hot yoga's going to feel like a joke after that steam," she said, nodding the robe. "What are you in the mood for? Old soul? Something you can cook to?" She slid past me to the kitchen island, fingers passing over the knives like she didn't see them. "Something classic," I said. "We deserve classic." She leaned on her elbows. The quartz reflected her, the perfect Instagram version. Lashes still clumped, lips flushed, the kind of accidental post-shower glow that wellness brands pay extra for. A drop of water traced her collarbone. I watched it and felt nothing except the exact measurement of the angle between her posture and her lie. "Devin texted," she said, casual as weather. "Says the powder tomorrow's going to be insane. He wants us up early, before the lifts get crowded." "Nice of him to plan our dawn," I said. It came out like a joke. She rewarded me with a grin, my wife the yoga instructor who built an empire on staying centered. She was born knowing how to sell breath. "You know him," she said. "Ski bro, schedule bro. What time do we want dinner?" She meant with him. The three of us. Our unbreakable trio. The dynamic everyone at the firm envied, until now. Until the mountain whispered that it had heard them, and then told me. I reached for the decanter and poured her a splash of the Syrah we'd opened earlier. When the glass touched the counter, I could hear the faint, perfect echo of that same tap inside the recording. Exact. Undeniable. The same. Sound is a blueprint too, if you know how to read it. She took a sip. That's good." "Then what?" "Nothing." I shook my head. "It's just the snow. It makes the house too quiet. You start hearing weird things." "Weird like what?" A tiny twitch at the corner of her mouth. Whenever she told her clients about listening to their bodies, that twitch showed up half a beat before the word alignment. "Like the heater breathing," I said. "Like the beams settling. Like the speaker playing ghost noises." "Oh," she laughed a little too bright. "This place? It's all brand new. No ghosts." The speaker's blue ring glowed faintly in my peripheral vision, as if it had opinions. "Anyway," she said, rolling a shoulder, "we needed this. You've been so tense with the Boston project. And Devin, well, Devin's been a lot." She smiled down at her wine, little sister shy, tiny apology in the angle of her lashes. "The great chase energy. You two together are intense." "Yeah," I said softly, my voice folding neatly into itself. "We are." My phone buzzed once on the counter. A notification from the companion app I'd just downloaded. "New device added to your account. Guest living room. Would you like to view activity?" Yes, I would. I thumbed it open. Timeline. The UI was idiot-proof. Yesterday, for 19 p.m. Voice notes saved, guest living room. Yesterday, for 20 p.m. Do you like that? Transcribed. Yesterday, for 21 p.m. He won't be back until 5. Transcribed. Yesterday, for 26 p.m. Deleted. Transcribed. That last one would make a beautiful exhibit tab. The shower had fogged the mirror down the hall. I could see our blurred forms in it from here, two ghosts standing in a house that was suddenly made of microphones and receipts. "Hey," she said, stepping closer. You good? I looked up into the face I'd loved since we were both broke and ambitious and eating Thai takeout on the floor of a rental with no furniture. She wasn't a cartoon villain. She was a person with a habit of thinking she deserved more. People like that don't learn lessons. They get taught consequences. I'm perfect, I said, and I was. Calm is a choice. So is the order in which you pick up the tools. She rose on tiptoes and kissed the corner of my mouth. A little thank you for being the stable one. Set the music. I'll light the candles. Make it romantic. I nodded, turned to the speaker, and said, play Miles Davis. Playing So What by Miles Davis. The device replied cheerfully, like it hadn't just emptied a body bag onto my dining table. Carla drifted toward the bedroom to get dressed. The steam in the doorway framed her like a halo. My phone vibrated again. Guest living room, cloud backup enabled. Good, good. I opened a new note and titled it, Aspen, Kitchen, 4:19 p.m. In the glass, the mountain kept breathing. In the speaker's ring, a tiny blue pulse, patient as a metronome. The bathroom door opened, and she stepped out of the steam with that soft, practiced smile. I met it with one of my own, the kind that says nothing and promises everything. The game had just begun. Betrayal doesn't hit you like a truck. It seeps in like poison. The morning after the recording, the cabin smelled like coffee and burnt toast. Carla moved around the kitchen in leggings and a cream sweater, hair tied back, barefoot, humming like she was auditioning for the role of content wife in a luxury brand ad. I sat at the table with my laptop open, eyes on blueprints I wasn't reading. The plan was simple. Do nothing. Not nothing in the lazy sense. Nothing in the controlled, calculated sense. Silence is a blade that cuts deeper the longer you hold it still. Want eggs? She asked, as if we'd never lived in a world where she'd called another man babe over my bourbon. Sure, I said without looking up. She tilted her head, reading my face. Carla always thought she could sense my moods. She didn't realize she'd just been demoted from reader to subject. While she cracked eggs, I studied her like a case study. The way she avoided humming the same song twice. How she kept her phone on the counter face down. The slight hitch in her voice when she asked what time Devin was coming over. 10, I said. He texted. Good, she replied, too quickly. When Devin arrived, snow dusted on his jacket. He gave me the same smile he always did, like he was about to close a deal in my name. Morning, partner, he said, clapping a hand on my shoulder. I looked him dead in the eye, and for the first time in 20 years, I lied without hesitation. Morning, you ready to hit the slopes? He grinned. Always. And just like that, the board was set. I used to think her calm came from peace. Turns out, it came from secrets. The next morning, Carla unrolled her mat in the living room, right in front of the wide windows where the mountains spilled down in white silence. She was barefoot, hair braided, wearing that ocean blue set she reserved for photos she wanted to accidentally post online. Join me, she said, smiling over her shoulder. I stayed in the armchair with my coffee. I'm good. She flowed into poses like she was water and gravity was a suggestion. The same mouth that whispered to Devin about deleting recordings now told me to let go of any tension in the hips. Her voice had the perfect yoga teacher balance, gentle enough to soothe, commanding enough to control. I sipped coffee and wondered how many students came to her classes for the same reason Devin came to my home. Because she made them feel like they were the only person in the room. Between Downward Dog and Cobra, she glanced at her phone, which was balanced at the edge of the mat. A tiny flicker of a smile, barely there, but I caught it. New client. I asked casually. Just checking the time. She folded herself into pigeon pose, body language relaxed, eyes too bright. While she lectured about the honesty of the breath, I replayed the way she used to be, before the brand deals, before the wellness retreats, before Devin. Back then, her calm wasn't a performance. She was fiery, unpredictable, messy. Now, even her silences felt scripted. By evening, she was in the shower again. And that's when I noticed her iPad on the nightstand, the screen still lit from an earlier text. I shouldn't have touched it, but I did. Her photo album had a folder buried deep, labeled with a single innocuous word, recipes. It wasn't recipes. It was pictures, screenshots, videos. Not just them together, but proof they'd been planning more than just stolen moments. The audio from yesterday was polite compared to this. I put the iPad back exactly as I found it. My reflection in the dark glass of the window looked calm, but inside I was building something. Not a house, not a life, a weapon. That night, I lay beside her, listening to her breathe, staring at the ceiling. I had more than enough to end them both. And soon, they'd know it. I built this firm with Devin. Now I'd use it to bury him. The morning started with a video call to the Boston client. Carla was upstairs, blow-drying her hair, and Devin was nursing a coffee across from me at the cabin's massive oak table. He talked like he always did, smooth, confident, just enough charm to make people ignore the lack of details. While he pitched our new direction, I watched the way his eyes kept moving to his phone, the subtle angle of the screen shielding whatever he didn't want me to see. When the call ended, he clapped my shoulder. "They're on board," he said. "Good," I replied. "Let's make sure everything's clean." He smirked. A tiny, private smirk. I filed it away. While he went outside to check the slope conditions, I opened my laptop and started combing through our firm's internal folders. Years of contracts, invoices, emails, digital scaffolding holding up the empire we'd built. Buried in the quiet corners were changes he'd made without my sign-off, financial transfers routed through holding companies, consulting fees paid to names I didn't recognize, revisions to contracts that subtly stripped my authority in certain projects. I downloaded everything. PDFs, spreadsheets, archived emails. The little spinning icon beside each file felt like a drumbeat in my head. Carla breezed through the room on her way to the kitchen, still damp from her shower. "Workday?" she asked. "Just tying up loose ends," I said. By evening, I had a folder so toxic it could kill a career in minutes. I compressed it into a single file, gave it a name only I'd understand, leverage, and locked it with a password no one could guess. Then I emailed it to myself, just in case, because if Devin thought I was going to react, he was right. I just wasn't going to do it the way he expected. It was late, the snow was coming down in sheets, and the cabin's silence felt padded, like the world was giving us privacy we didn't deserve. Carla curled against me on the couch, a blanket over our legs, her hand tracing idle circles on my chest. "You've been distant," she said softly. "Is something wrong?" I smiled like a man who had nothing to hide. "Just tired. Long week." She tilted her head, searching my face. Then she kissed me, slow and warm, pulling me toward the bedroom with that practiced mix of tenderness and command she'd perfected over the years. We fell into the bed, the fire's glow flickering on the ceiling. Her robe hit the floor. She whispered, "I love you," between breaths. Her eyes locked on mine as if she could will me into believing it. Then her phone buzzed. Once. Twice. I glanced past her shoulder at the nightstand. The screen lit just enough for me to read the preview. "Devin Chase. I wish it was you tonight." She didn't notice. She was too busy holding my face like she was memorizing it. I kept my breathing even, my touch steady, but inside, my pulse had gone cold and mechanical. When she finally rolled over to grab her water, I slid her phone toward me with 2 fingers, tapped the message, and forwarded it to my private folder. Another brick in the wall I was building. I put the phone back exactly where it had been, screen down. She settled against me again. "I'm glad we're here," she murmured. "So am I," I said, my voice quiet, measured. And in the dark, with her head on my chest, I whispered into the silence. Not for her, but for myself. Almost there. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one I was about to unleash. By morning, the cabin was sealed in by a heavy white wall. The windows framed nothing but snow. The wind pushed against the glass like it wanted in. Carla moved through the kitchen in wool socks, making tea, while Devin stomped snow from his boots by the door. The 3 of us were trapped together. No errands, no quick runs into town, no convenient separations. Just walls, heat, and a low ceiling of unspoken things. I decided to make the most of it. Over breakfast, I steered the conversation into familiar territory. Firm gossip, project deadlines, mutual acquaintances. Then, like slipping a knife between ribs, I asked Carla if she'd been in touch with the board lately. She didn't flinch, too well trained for that. "Just holiday messages," she said, sipping her tea. Devin nodded along, adding, "We're all laying low till after New Year's." But later, when I brought up the same question in a different context, Devin mentioned an update Carla had supposedly given them. He caught himself halfway through, eyes cutting toward her. You must be mixing things up, Carla said quickly, her smile as tight as her voice. Yeah, probably, Devin said, but his knee bounced under the table. By afternoon, I was setting more traps. Little conversational landmines, conflicting timelines, invented meetings, half-finished statements I let hang in the air. And they were stepping on every single one. The final crack came just before dinner. Devin poured himself a drink and, without thinking, called Carla babe in front of me. The word hung there like gunpowder in the air. Carla froze, glass halfway to her lips. Devin blinked once, then laughed it off, but the slip was already etched in the space between us. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to, because now I knew they were capable of breaking cover without realizing it. And all I had to do was keep the pressure on until they broke completely. The storm eased just enough for the mountains to reappear in the distance, a jagged black and white painting framed in glass. I took the thaw as an opportunity. Let's do something nice tonight, I told them. A real dinner. Feels like we've earned it. Devin grinned, thinking it was camaraderie talking. Carla lit up, no doubt imagining photos for her followers. 3 beautiful, successful people snowed in together, laughing over wine. I spent the afternoon in the kitchen, searing lamb, roasting vegetables, stirring a sauce that filled the cabin with warmth. Every knife stroke was clean, deliberate, measured. When we finally sat down, the candles flickered between us, casting their faces in a warm glow that almost made them look innocent. Almost. To us, I said, raising my glass. To unbreakable bonds. Carla's eyes softened. Devin clinked his glass against mine with a confidence I couldn't decide was arrogance or stupidity. I kept the conversation light. Funny stories from the firm, old travel memories, mutual friends. They relaxed. They believed me. And the whole time, my phone sat propped discreetly against a stack of cookbooks on the counter. Camera pointed toward the table, quietly recording every smile, every slip, every glance that lasted a beat too long. After dessert, Carla excused herself to check something upstairs. Devin leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine. He looked at me with that smug, conspiratorial glint I'd seen him give board members after a deal was sealed. She's amazing, huh? He said, smirking. I held his gaze, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make him blink. You have no idea, I said. And in that moment, I knew, by the time this was over, neither of them would. She cried by the fireplace about how lucky she was. I almost laughed. The storm had passed, but the night was still heavy with cold. The 3 of us sat by the fire after dinner, wine glasses half full, the smell of roasted lamb still hanging in the air. Devin had gone upstairs to take a call, leaving Carla and me alone in the amber glow. She was curled on the rug, knees tucked under her, looking every bit the picture of contentment. You know, she said softly, I don't say it enough, but I'm really lucky to have you. I studied her in the flickering light, the wet shimmer in her eyes, the careful pauses in her speech. It was a performance. One I'd seen her use on sponsors and clients to get exactly what she wanted. Lucky how? I asked, sipping my drink. She shrugged, tucking hair behind her ear. You're steady. You make me feel safe. You've always believed in me. I leaned back, pretending to think. Funny. I was just telling someone about a friend of mine. Got cheated on. Didn't see it coming. Said it was the people he trusted most who buried the knife the deepest. Her head snapped up. That's awful. I can't imagine doing that to someone. The defensiveness came too fast, too rehearsed. She went on about loyalty, about honesty, about how she could never live with herself if she hurt me like that. Her words tumbled over each other, chasing the image she needed me to see. When she finally wound down, she moved closer, her hand on my cheek. I'd never hurt you, she whispered, voice trembling. I looked into her eyes, let a small, slow smile curve my lips, and whispered back. I know. She thought it was reassurance. It wasn't. It was a promise, to myself. Because soon, she'd understand exactly how well I knew. Morning light spilled into the cabin like melted gold. Carla was making smoothies. Devin sat at the table scrolling his phone, pretending not to watch her. I poured myself coffee, every movement slow, deliberate. The smart speaker sat on the counter, its blue ring pulsing gently. I'd been waiting for this moment. Play something romantic, I said casually, as if the thought had just struck me. The device chirped. Playing. Kitchen. Save conversation. The first breathy laugh hit the air like a slap. Carla's head snapped up. Devin froze mid-scroll. The sound of fabric rustling. Her voice, soft, playful, locked the door. No one moved. On the recording, Devin's chuckle followed. "It's locked, babe. You sure he's out?" Carla's face drained of color. Devin's phone slipped in his hand. I sipped my coffee, eyes on the snow outside, letting their panic bloom in the silence. "Alexa, pause," Carla said sharply. Her voice cracked. The speaker obeyed, leaving only the hum of the fridge. I turned toward them, calm as a priest at confession. "So, who wants to explain first?" Neither spoke. Carla's lips trembled. Devin's jaw worked like he was chewing glass. I took another sip, letting the steam curl between us like smoke before a fire. Because they both knew. The match had just been lit. When liars panic, they reveal everything. Carla was the first to crack. Her smoothie glass hit the counter with a dull thud, hands shaking. "Leon, it's not." "Don't." Devin cut in, his tone sharp. "Don't make it worse." She turned on him. "You said it was deleted." "Yeah, and you said you could keep it together," he snapped. I leaned against the counter, coffee in hand, watching them implode. Carla's eyes darted back to me. "He's twisting it, Leon. It's not what you think." Devin laughed once, bitter and ugly. "Oh, it's exactly what he thinks. And you dragged me into." "Dragged you?" Her voice rose. "Raw? You chased me. You." "Enough." My voice cut through them both like a steel cable under tension. They froze. I set my coffee down, took my phone from my pocket, and tapped the record button. The red circle blinked like a warning light. "You two might as well keep talking," I said evenly. "You're doing great." Carla's eyes widened. "Are you recording?" I smiled. "Of course." And just like that, the dam burst. Carla blaming Devin. Devin firing back with details she'd clearly kept from me. They tripped over each other, contradicting timelines, confessing pieces they didn't mean to confess. Every word was another nail in their own coffins. I didn't interrupt. I just let the phone drink it all in. When it was over, they were both breathing hard, like the fight had physically drained them. I stopped the recording, opened a hidden folder in my cloud account, and pressed upload. A new label appeared, insurance. Neither of them noticed the faint smile on my face. Because now I had them. In Dolby clarity. A blizzard traps bodies. But secrets? They run free. By morning, the storm had finally broken. The snow outside shimmered under a pale winter sun, the mountains sharp and clear again. But inside the cabin, the air was dense and stale, like we'd been breathing each other's lies for too long. Carla moved carefully around me, as if proximity might trigger another recording. Devin avoided eye contact altogether, sticking to his phone and pacing by the window. I spent the day working at the dining table, laptop open, headphones in, my gaze on the screen, but my mind on phase 2. The recording from yesterday was safely stored in multiple encrypted folders. My lawyer's contact sat at the top of my recent calls. A PR fixer I'd used once for a high-profile client was next in line. Every so often, I'd catch Carla watching me, her expression soft, almost pleading. Late in the afternoon, as the sun dipped behind the ridge, she came up behind my chair, slipping her arms around me like nothing had changed. Her cheek brushed mine, warm and familiar. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" I asked without turning. "For not leaving," she said quietly. "For hearing me out. For staying." I nodded, my face still turned toward the laptop. My thumb brushed the side of the small digital recorder in my pocket, the one that had been running since the moment she touched me. "Of course," I said, my voice even. Because every word she gave me now was another piece of the trap, and I wasn't done tightening it. Devin walked into the firm like he still owned half. He didn't. The snow melted from my boots as I stepped into the glass lobby, the hum of the city a sharp contrast to Aspen's muffled quiet. My heart rate didn't budge. This was just another build. Only this time, I was dismantling instead of designing. The boardroom smelled of fresh coffee and paper. Devin was already there, leaning back in his chair like a man certain of his place. Carla wasn't here. This wasn't her battlefield. "Emergency meeting?" he said, flashing that easy grin he used to disarm clients. "Yes," I replied. "We have a problem, and it's you." I slid a flash drive across the table. The board members leaned in as the first audio file played. Devin's voice, unmistakable, bragging about moving around me in firm decisions. Then the part about me signing whatever's clean. A few faces went pale. Next came the financial irregularities, transfers, falsified invoices, the whole blueprint of his side dealings. I'd laid it out in a tidy presentation, bullet-pointed like a surgical plan. Devin's grin faded. This is out of context. The chair of the board cut him off. We'll be voting on your removal effective immediately. He laughed, sharp and humorless. Leon, you'll regret this. I met his eyes for the first time all morning. Oh, I doubt that. The vote was unanimous. Papers slid across the table. Devin's signature looked more like a scrawl than a name. As he stood to leave, I added, by the way, your wife's about to get a copy of that recording too. He stopped in the doorway, jaw tightening. Then he left without a word. And I knew. The avalanche was finally moving downhill. Some people served divorce papers. I served audio with mine. 2 days after the board meeting, Carla was at home in our perfect, glass-walled kitchen when the courier knocked. She signed for the thick envelope without reading the label. I watched from the doorway as she slid her finger under the seal, pulling out 2 things, a crisp stack of legal papers and a USB drive. Her brows pulled together. What's this? Press play, I said, my voice low but steady. She hesitated, then carried it to her laptop. The first thing she heard was her own laugh, breathy, intimate. Then Devin's voice, low and smug. Her hand flew to her mouth. She kept listening anyway. Every word, every moan, every promise they'd made when they thought the world wasn't listening. By the 3rd file, her face had gone gray. Leon, she whispered. I slid the divorce petition across the counter. Sign it. Tears welled, spilling fast. We can fix this, she begged. I'll end it. I shook my head. We already fixed it. Her eyes searched mine, desperate. What does that mean? It means, I said, folding the papers neatly back toward her, I fixed everything that was broken, and you're not coming with me. She flinched like I'd struck her, but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to, because the soundtrack of her own betrayal was still playing softly in the background. And there's no talking over that kind of truth. Revenge isn't loud. It's quiet, strategic, viral. The files didn't hit the tabloids. They didn't have to. I sent them to 5 people, each one a carefully chosen node in the network Devin and Carla had built their images on. One was a key client who prided himself on working with men of integrity. Another was a boutique wellness sponsor who'd built Carla's public brand around purity and mindfulness. The others were influencers and industry insiders who treated gossip like currency. I didn't attach any explanation, just the recordings. No one trusts a man who tries too hard to sell his own truth, but everyone trusts raw audio. By the end of the week, Devin's name was quietly removed from 2 major projects. A client dinner he'd been bragging about was postponed indefinitely. Investors began requesting clarity on past transactions. Carla's damage was swifter. 2 of her sponsors dropped her before she even had a chance to post her long, folk-and-trite accountability statement. A retreat she was scheduled to lead in Bali vanished from the booking site overnight. No screaming, no public war, just erasure. One evening, I sat alone in my new minimalist condo. Clean lines, bare surfaces, no trace of her scent in the air. The city was a blur of lights through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I poured a glass of wine, set it on the table, and opened the last recording in my folder. Carla's breath, Devin's voice, the whispered promises they thought were safe. Then my own voice at the end, calm and close to the mic. I win. I didn't burn their lives down. I just removed my part of the foundation. Months had passed. The firm was thriving, my name alone now etched on the skyline projects Devin once claimed as his legacy. My calendar was full, my phone quiet. The silence was clean this time, earned. Carla's ghost drifted across the periphery sometimes. A mutual friend mentioning she'd taken time away from social media. A news snippet about a yoga studio closing without explanation. Devin, he'd gone to ground. No new projects. No press. Just a shadow in a city that had moved on without him. I booked Aspen again, the same cabin. This time, there was no Devin's jacket on the chair, no second wine glass at the sink. The snow fell in slow spirals outside, muffling the world, just like before. I built a fire, poured a drink, and let the heat soak into my bones. No recordings this time, just the crackle of wood and the wind in the pines. Standing at the wide window, I looked out at the mountain. The same view. But I was different now. I thought about foundations, how buildings collapse when the ground beneath them shifts, how people do too. You don't have to destroy them. You just have to stop holding them up. My breath fogged the glass. Thank you, I whispered to the snow, to the silence, to the two people who taught me exactly what I needed to know. Thank you for showing me who you both really were.